All right, Rams news and notes, not just for the Rams, but for other teams. Alaric Jackson, the left tackle, he's looking like he's going to play this week, and Matthew Stafford is expected to start. I don't know if it was just the terminology, guys, but when I saw they're expecting Matthew Stafford to start. It didn't inspire me in terms of Matthew Stafford's long-term outlook. Am I reading too much into that?
When I see Jaden Blue is expected to play in week 1, I'm like, oh, cool. When I see Matthew Stafford's expected to play week 1, I'm like, why are we still discussing this? Because that means it's a problem.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So it's like, it's obviously encouraging that he's okay, and it's encouraging that we've dealt through we've gone through this whole month and a half of training camp and preseason of will he practice, won't he practice, will he be okay, is he going to be ready for week 1? So you want some reaffirmation or affirmation that he's going to be fine. But yes, it's a little bit concerning that we're still talking about this now. So one bad hit, one tweak. I think we've all at some point in our lives had back concerns or issues or something that's bothered us. I was coaching my 10-year-old, and the one of the coaches was sitting on a bucket throwing batting practice, and he's like, I can't get up. and watching him trying to hobble off to the dugout, and he's not even 40 yet, so it's not good if something happens to him, and what the potential fallout could be for Puka and Devontae Adams and maybe Kyren Williams, could be bad.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about Garoppolo, Dave. The last time we saw him as a starter, he struggled with the Raiders, but before that, in his San Francisco days, he was solid. I mean, Super Bowl, he went to a Super Bowl. He was, yards per attempt was good. Of course, that's partially the Raiders, but the Niners. Rams have a great system. Do you feel confident in him as a backup quarterback?
We have to talk about it in the context of the receivers, because nobody's really going to start Jimmy Garoppolo unless it's a 2 QB league and Stafford is for sure out. I think that there would be some sort of downgrade, but first of all, I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo, as far as backup quarterbacks go, is very good. And the offense that he's in is very good. And I trust how Sean McVay is as a play caller. We all remember the game where Baker Mayfield showed up 2 days to learn the offense, and he went out and won a game. His numbers weren't great, but he won a game. So I think that the Rams can work around that. Obviously, they'd rather have Stafford. We would rather have Stafford playing. But if I've got Puka Nacua, maybe I expect 10, 15% decline in stats. Devontae, 15 to 20% max with Jimmy Garoppolo under center. So this isn't as bad as what we saw last year when Tua missed time. And the backup quarterbacks that we had in Miami were just absolutely atrocious, and the numbers tanked for everybody. So I'm not that worried.
Okay. Real-time ADP on Fantasy Pros. How about this? Real-time ADP on Fantasy Pros has Puka going 13th overall as wide receiver 7. CBS, Puka's going 24th overall. But we are a little more running back heavy on CBS.
I see him at 16.7.
Yeah, you know what? I think I might have non-PPR. I'm trying to toggle. Yeah. Okay. I thought I had hit PPR. I was non-PPR. Okay, I got him at 16.
That's still a dip. I was thinking about this in the morning. How many players have we seen their ADP fall since the offseason ADP? Puka's one of those guys. Achane is one of those guys. It's guys that have been impacted by negative news over the last month.
But
some of those guys.
You're talking about the top tier guys?
I'm talking about anybody.
Adams more than Puka, because Adams is 44th on the real-time ADP.
Perfect example.
36th on CBS. But
right. And so that's somebody whose value has dipped because of news that may not be news that matters anymore, because we were worried about Stafford. We can still be worried about Stafford. He's playing in week 1. He's playing until further notice. And if he's playing, we definitely like the receiver. I'm starting Puka and Adams in every league I've got them in. I'm not changing a thing about them. Just for any reason. Stafford's playing. I feel good about him when Stafford's playing.
I think in the case of Puka, though, there's consistently been that group of wide receivers that have sort of been shuffling a lot. So Nico, a little bit of a riser, based on, I think, where it started for him. St. Brown, maybe a little bit of a faller, because of some people voicing concerns about the Lions. Puka, a faller because of the Stafford situation. London a riser because of maybe Darnell Mooney's injury or just people, really liking him in certain spots, depending on what rank list you look at, what site you look at, so that shuffling I think is kind of fair. And then I think it's also when you're talking about comparing these guys to other positions, so the running backs kind of got pushed up, for our site, for example, like Josh Jacobs being a first round pick in ADP is pushing those receivers down. The fact that we have 7 running backs in our first round is pushing those guys down, so.
All right. So would you take how would you rank the old guys that I talked about yesterday? Evans, Adams, Tyreek.
Evans, Tyreek, Adams.
Yes.
Okay. Next news item. Let's talk about the 49ers. Jauan Jennings back at practice. Oh, by the way, the Rams start with Houston in week 1. Very interesting matchup. But the Niners are at Seattle. Another fun matchup. Jennings back at practice, and offensive guard Dominick Puni practiced. Let's see where Jauan Jennings is going right now, because he could end up being a steal. 109th overall, wide receiver 45 in the Fantasy Pros real time, and 120th overall on CBS. When would you guys take Jauan Jennings?
I need to adjust my rankings for the fact that he's back at practice for anybody drafting, the next 24 or 48 hours. So he'll move up, not significantly, but he'll move up, and Pearsall will probably move down a couple spots. I do think it's going to be, as we discussed yesterday, this is going to be one of those situations where Jennings comes out and has, 8 targets, 6 catches, 80 yards and a touchdown, and Pearsall has 5 targets, 4 catches,
oh man,
60 yards and nothing, and people are just going to absolutely lose their minds because you can see it. So yeah, it's one of those things where, was he actually injured or was he actually dealing with the contract situation? So I wouldn't overvalue him. You know how I feel about these guys that were hold-ins in the last couple of years. So he's in a similar situation, but it clearly is a great scenario for you if you drafted him late and you're going to get him week 1.
Think about where they were before training camp started. Like, we were having debates about which receiver we'd rather have, and they were close in the rankings for all of us. And until today, they've been very far apart. And so I'd still look at Jennings as someone that I want to take in like the round 8 range. I'd move him up there. And I think moving Pearsall down just a little bit does make sense.
But he did miss all of training camp, so
it could be a slow start.
Yeah. All right. Najee Harris expects to play this week, and Quentin Johnston is going to play. They're playing Friday in Brazil against the Chiefs. And, I just tell you, we're going to preview that game on Thursday night on tomorrow's show. But the 2 times they played last year, the Chiefs and Chargers, neither team cracked 20 points. Neither quarterback reached 17 fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. It was low scoring stuff. But seeing that Najee Harris expects to play this week, it's not, look, if he's not back this week, he'll probably be back week 2. If you're drafting today, you're changing the way you're drafting Omari and Hampton.
Nope, still an early 3rd round pick.
So I was the one who was really aggressive on Hampton, and I could probably see myself moving him down just a little, but still in round 3.
Andrew Thomas for the Giants, left tackle. He's questionable there at Washington. Micah Parsons is questionable against Detroit. Darnell Mooney, day-to-day with a shoulder injury. We don't know about his status for week 1. They're against Tampa Bay.
What's his ADP at right now?
Mooney is just ahead of Jennings on our site, about 120th overall.
Okay.
And on real-time ADP from Fantasy Pros, he's 134th. He's wide receiver 52. That is after Rashid Shaheed and Jaden Reed.
Uh-huh. Jamie, do you remember where you were the lead guy on Mooney? And I like that call. Where were you before training camp started on him?
Right around like 42, 43.
So pick 100 maybe?
In that range, yeah.
So there's another player you can buy the dip on.
Christian Gonzalez, Patriots starting cornerback. He missed practice. He seems pretty uncertain for week 1 against the Raiders. They did sign Carlton Davis, but Gonzalez is their best corner. The Steelers signed Jalen Warren to a 2-year extension with $12 million guaranteed. They're at the Jets this week. Does this change the way you look at the Steelers backfield with Warren signing an extension?
I've always liked Warren better, really, for the majority of camp. And so it's just, I think, further an indication of how they feel about him, which is, exciting if you like Jalen Warren, and a little bit of a, shouldn't be a huge downgrade for Caleb Johnston, but, it does hurt his dynasty value a little bit if Jalen Warren's going to have a big season.
Trayvon Diggs, cornerback for the Cowboys. He practiced in full. They're playing Thursday at Philadelphia. Dallas left tackle Tyler Guyton thinks he'll be ready to go. Khalil Shakir's been practicing. They got the big game, Baltimore, on Sunday night. Cade Otton practice. That's good news. He could maybe be a week 1 sleeper at Atlanta. Isaiah Likely did not practice, and neither did Baltimore cornerback Jair Alexander, who they picked up after the Packers released him. They're at Buffalo again on Sunday night. And Houston safety CJ Gardner-Johnson is one of the guys that was key for the Eagles last year, no longer on the team, and hopefully going to be key for the Houston Texans. He hurt his knee in training camp, looked pretty bad. He's actually going to be ready for week 1 at the Rams.